Guys, you won't believe it, but as last presentation, we were talking about AI. Wow. So first, that's the new logo of Gerrit Code Review. Do you like it?
Is it AI generated?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Okay, so I'm not going to actually spend a lot of time, otherwise I will lose my flight. I will miss my flight, but I want to give you an overview. It's a little bit of a deep dive of what Tony already presented when he was saying what's new about Gerrit 3.13, right? And we'll try not to be too long. So let's keep this one. So I'm going to talk about slightly and shortly about the history of AI support in Gerrit, and then the issues we go with the current situation, which is messy. Then how Google approaches actually the AI part. And I'm going to be a bit blurry because they haven't disclosed it, right? So I can just tell not what I know, but what I can read in the code, right? So whatever I'm saying is not a disclosure of confidential information. It's just stuff that is in the code. So I read the code, I say what I read. And this is how Google is doing it. Then what's new in Gerrit 3.13? And then, of course, how we are planning to move on. That's the important thing, right? What's the plan for Gerrit for AI? Timeline. So first, of course, in 2022, ChatGPT came out and just changed everything in the way we work and the way that investors work, mainly, right? And shortly afterwards, we had the first presentation of AI integration back in 2023. Who remembers that? Raise your hand. There was one guy from China that I never heard about it, and it completely disappeared. But he created a plugin for basically integrating. It was a very simple plugin. It was just getting the feedback from the hook and getting the content of the changes, sending it to ChatGPT. It was posting just a comment with the full output of ChatGPT in just a whole comment. And he provided this one, was the ChatGPT Code Review Gerrit plugin. And then some other guys from Amarula Solutions, instead of contributing to that plugin, they created a fork of that plugin on GitHub. GitHub is for forks, right? If you don't fork, you're not good, right? Another fork. And they presented an evolution of the same concepts in the Gerrit Meets in May 2024. We have 2 forks. Is 2 forks enough? No. Wow. If you don't have at least 250,000 forks, you're not a star, right? And we had a 3rd fork. So last year, a guy from Sirata, so instead, again, of contributing to the 2nd fork, he created a 3rd fork on a plugin. Now we go 3. And he basically changed the name of ChatGPT plugin to AI Code Review and basically plug Llama, right? That is on-premises LLM. And then he presented at the Gerrit User Summit in Qualcomm, right? And we got the 3rd fork. Which one is the best? None of them. Because actually, the overall approach is flawed. And I'm going to tell you why. The main reason is because all of them, what they were doing was getting the entire content of the change and give it to the LLM and say, can you tell me something about this change? What's wrong with the approach? Raise your hand if you're still alive. And I know it's Sunday, it's 3:40. No, oh no, 2:40, sorry. There we go. What's wrong with the approach? You are still alive, good.
Well, I'm going to guess it doesn't have actually the file content beyond the diff. It's just the unidiff.
Excellent, so that's the first one, content. Anyone else? I'm going to tell you what's basically wrong. This is one thing, yes, and that actually doesn't allow to understand what is the context of the change and then the context of the code and says something meaningful. But because it doesn't have the context, then the problem is that what is providing as an output is syntactical and not mostly useful, right? So what does it mean? That by using it, and actually we installed it on GitHub.io and we used it, and we saw that the most useful things, they were the trivial stuff, so typos or very common errors, something that actually error-prone catches very well. So why do we really need ChatGPT and burn all these trees in the Amazon, right, for just saying something you could do with error-prone, right? But the second problem, they were sticking those comments into the metadata, right? And then your repo grows and grows and grows and grows with something that is spam, at the end of the day. So none of them are actually a good approach. And actually, from 3.13 onwards, all of them are basically deprecated because the robot comments they are generating, they're not supported anymore. So gone. So what is the new approach? The new approach is slightly different. So Gerrit 3.13 has the ability to generate the prompt. What, instead of doing in a plugin that is not visible to you, is asking you, okay, what would you like to ask to ChatGPT or Gemini or whoever? And then based on a prompt, at the moment, in 3.13 out of the box, you get the prompt. We take the type of suggestion you want from the AI. You want a suggestion on general change, or maybe the patch set or the code, or maybe improve the commit message to avoid typos or whatever. Okay. And then you can copy and paste that one into your AI and get it back, and then you decide what it makes sense to keep. This is going to be in Gerrit 3.13.0. You don't need any plugin for that, okay? So Gerrit 3.13.0 comes out. All those 3 forks, I'm sorry guys, they're all obsolete. So the issues are the ones that I was mentioning before. And also the problem is, it was very difficult sometimes to understand why it was giving you this type of suggestions. So all these plugins, they had a very complicated way of debugging things and understanding why was doing that. And you need to learn all these kind of dialects, and it's a language inside the language. And then of course because you got developers working on 3 different forks, of course they're gonna have the same bugs. They need to fix them 3 times. And then you got the complexity of people using one plugin on the mailing list, another maintainer on another fork say, yeah, I fixed it. Say, but I don't see it. No, that's another fork. It's messy, right? And they try to talk to each other. They don't even agree or do the same project. So I believe it's something that Gerrit should do in core, and Gerrit is doing in core, right? So the consequences are the one that I mentioned before, so let's keep quickly. At Google, what they do, they deprecated robot comments. If you try to write any plugin that generates robot comments, you get the same message you saw before in the UI. Robot comments not supported, right? And instead, the approach is not to do the server talking to the AI, but involving the communication with the developer. So surfacing the AI to the developer and having Gerrit and AI working side by side, helping you as a developer to improve your code. But that is not AI giving review. You give review. AI will tell you some suggestions about the review. I use personally, so this one is installed already on GitHub.io, and people are using GitHub.io, and I use it also a lot on Gerrit Review. I found it very useful. And I found that even if it's useful only for the 20% of the suggestion, those 20% are really good, right? And I'm really happy that I don't stick the other 80% in the history, right? Otherwise, it just becomes noise. The problem that I see is now a usability problem. It's really a user interface problem, because if you face yourself, what you have to do, you go to a change, you see the link, you click the link, it opens another window, you copy, then you go to your ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever cloud, you paste it there, you wait 5 minutes, they will give you the suggestion, you read the suggestion, and there you go. It's messy, right? So we are doing something in Gerrit for improving that workflow. But now we are talking about the user experience that needs to be improved. For instance, I quite like in Git Butler that was all integrated, right, with UAI. You say, just do this, and all these kind of mechanism, Git Butler takes care of it. I believe we should do something similar with Gerrit as well. Okay, there is a design proposal. That's the thing that I like. So instead of just coding something, I say, guys, it's there, try it out. So who we are we, let's say, your kind of rabbit that is to just run and try everything and will tell you what's something. So you should design. This is something important, right? We shouldn't just throw code out to the fence. We should decide with the rest of the community the right thing to do. So the SAP guys, they wrote a design document, right? And they actually are looking for suggestion and looking for feedback. So look at the design document, look at the feedback. If you take a picture of that link, that's the repo discuss link. The slides are going to be published anyway, and just be involved. So the way that will work will be basically split in 3 parts. The first part will be the prompt that you see, right, will not be anymore so let me go, maybe it's the next one. Yeah. So the support will be split in 3 parts. The prompt will not be generated anymore on the client side, right? But will be generated on the backend. At the moment, that prompt is encoded in JavaScript. So it's very difficult to be pluggable because you need to read it from a JavaScript plugin. They will need to read it and change dynamically the UI. It's going to be messy, right? So that change has been merged already. It's been approved, sorry. Approved, not merged yet. So it means that in master at the moment, we could potentially, let's say, move the logic of generating the prompt on the backend. The second step is, of course, making LLM pluggable, right? Because we want potentially be able to, say, generate this prompt in a slightly different way depending on the LLM, or depending on Claude, or depending if you plug, let's say, ChatGPT or Gemini and so on. And maybe even, but pluggable, of course, if you want to do on the backend, why not on the backend? Why Google decided on the front end? Because in that way, you can avoid the, let's say, abuse. LLMs can be very expensive. At the moment, the providers, AI providers, what they do, they basically give you the LLM for free. But that will end sooner or later. They cannot continue, let's say, in losing 90% of the money every time that you give them, let's say, some money for the LLM. So sooner or later, they will start charging us everything, right? And we need to reduce that. And last point, of course, making sure that the review bot will be aligned with your user experience. How many of you have used Cursor, the IDE, the AI IDE? He used it. That's good. Well done, Martin. And Cursor is great because instead of asking you to go to a different UI, it has a sidebar on the right where you can communicate in real time with the AI agent, right? And the LLM will give you suggestions, and the concept that we are building is to create a site on Gerrit where you can interact with the LLM. They will tell you suggestion of what to fix. I say, I found a bug while you're doing review. Do you want this? And then it's going to be you that you select what you want to become a review. But then it's going to be your review, not the AI review. So you need to, he will propose what to do, but then you will have to review it and accept it and say, that was a good suggestion, or that was not a good suggestion. Or maybe AI just didn't understand the context, right? So the next big thing, that's not the end of the story. So Google actually has been working behind the scenes in building something brand new that is called a Gerrit MCP server. Okay, this is a brand new project. How many of you know what is an MCP server? Okay. Do you want to try? Who wants to try to define what is an MCP server? There we go. I know it's Sunday afternoon, but you can. Who wants to do it? You want to do it? Go for it.
Go. MCP is a protocol to let AI talk to different kinds of services. And an MCP server more or less give the AI access to those servers.
Okay, that was excellent. Thank you very much for that. So a round of applause for you because Sunday afternoon, you demonstrated are still there on board, which is good. Why is so important? Because a lot of companies now they want to integrate and get more knowledge and more context to the LLMs and the AI agents. So what you were saying is very true. So the initial approach that has been implemented in Gerrit is limited because they don't have the context, right? And they want AI agent to really understand the code base and being able to propose patches or to integrate the knowledge that you've got in the code with the knowledge you've got in the issue tracker and do more. Okay, Google has been working on that internally for a very long time. And they have been working behind the scenes without showcasing anything to us. However, now decided to go externally and say, we've done this, and we donate to the community. And they say, we used it, it's useful, maybe you can make use of it as well. So for the ones that are based in Europe, or next to Germany, or next to Munich, to the Google headquarters, so next month, so we are not just doing Gerrit User Summit every year, we actually doing a smaller one every month that is called Gerrit Meets. So if you are not far from Munich, where there are the Google European headquarters there, and there is the Gerrit team, so finally there is going to be an event organized by Google, where all the Gerrit team will be there, and all the Google team will be there, and they're going to show to us what they've done with the MCP server. So because, of course, we wanted also to show what we have done. There is not that much on AI, but we've done something. We will also present what we've done on AI, on Gerrit. Yeah, so you need to register. It's free. And they also offer dinner. It looks like Google has some budget back, which is good, right? So we are really glad to see that. So if you're around November 19th from 6 to 9:30, there will be this presentation of Google about MCP. And then questions. Do you have any questions? You want to ask something? No? Yeah? Go. Go for it.
Well, this way of doing the AI review where the human reviews it, I mean, I imagine a lot of people would just press submit with the generated code. Can we coin the term human washing? We're human washing the. Is it too provocative? I think it's quite likely that would be the behavior, and I think that's fine. But it's also interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There could be the danger that you just say approve them all. But the point is, because AI will generate so many comments, you just don't enable tick all, right? At least you will have you will need to go to the page to click them all. To give you some examples, some of the customers, they've been using AI for doing automated reviews for years. They were generating, I was mentioning, even 1 million comments on a change. Yeah. At least if there is a human that wants to tick 1 million times, so I will give you a medal, right? But at least it will take time. They will not overload my server. I hope that this finger will just have a kind of paralysis, right?
It feels like this approach misunderstands the assignment a little bit, what we're trying to do with review. Of course, there is the human collaboration aspect where share knowledge, teach each other, and there is the prevent bad things from happening in production. And I think thinking about them separately also, actually, I don't know if it's interesting, but as an example, with a just classical neural network, one can classify code changes and try to score the risk of types of modifications that were made to the code base and just giving you a score. Is this a high risk change versus a low risk change?
There is actually, I believe there was a presentation from Shane McIntosh about that, if you remember. That was a few years ago. So the same professor that has been helping us with the GHS research, he has been doing a research program exactly on that. He was using AI for doing a scoring of the risk of a change. So maybe you can follow up with that.
I would love to speak with this guy. Actually, can I say one controversial thought that I have?
Yeah, go.
So I think a lot of us use heuristics. I think it's natural as humans to use heuristics for a lot of things. That includes code review. So I'm looking at a code pattern, and in my experience, I recognize this is a dangerous pattern, and I speak about it. And I think this is AI. I mean, this is what we try to encode in networks. So I thought, how much of an accuracy and precision can one get just using data that's out in the open? So before ChatGPT, team of mine and I trained a classical neural network that is just a few megabytes large, trying to predict, will this pull request or change get approved or approved, like without any intervention. Okay. And we scored 98% precision, so being wrong 2% of the time. So, and this is looking, instead of the diff, looking at things like how long would a particular type of change stay without being modified by somebody else, or the patterns when you, for instance, you create a change into a controller without a migration in the database, etc., etc. You can encode it in software, and you don't have to do the collaboration part. You can just be on the mechanical bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sounds interesting as well. Yeah, absolutely. And also you can have, as you were mentioning, so you can do an initial training of the neural network, but then it continues to learn. Yep, you can have human feedback that will say, no, you were wrong, and then you continue to give this learning. Then maybe giving inside integrated with Gerrit UI the score, because at the moment the only thing that we give as a label is the size of the change. So you go XL, L, but that is not enough. Sometimes you got some small changes, they're very high risk. Some big changes, you're just rewriting the doc or whatever formatting.
What do you train it on? Do you train it on just the diff, or are we looking at past incidents that match this pattern, etc.? Exactly. And if you have that in a data store somewhere.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
Well, Uber did actually do this kind of training as well, to identify which changes would pass a CI or not, and then schedule the changes in the right order. One of the most important part was not the size of the commit or which files changed, it was who had written it. A year later, we talked to them again. Turned out that they had to disable that feature with who wrote it, the commit of it. I think management said that's not okay.
Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, so I really have to board my flight, and I want to thank you. So round of applause for everyone. I don't know if the audio video guys are here. I wanted to say a round of applause to them, that they're not here, but they did a fantastic job as well. So they will publish the recording. And again, thank you, Martin. Right? That stream was great. And thank you for coming. So if you are around, you guys are in Germany, right?
Some of the team are.
Yeah. So maybe if you want to pass the word about the AI meetup next month. Yeah, it's going to be in Munich. I don't know how far it is, but if it's not far, yeah. Come and see us again. Thank you. Thanks for coming.